Ladies and gentlemen, there is a power within you, an invisible force that can shape your destiny more than any circumstance, more than any setback, and more than any challenge you will ever face. That power is your mind, and the greatest skill you will ever develop is mastering it. You see, anyone can be calm when the sun is shining, when the money is flowing, when the path is smooth and straight. But true power, true character is revealed not when the storm is absent, but when it rages all around and you remain unshaken. True strength lies in mental calmness. This is a truth that reveals itself not in moments of peace, but in the midst of chaos, difficulty, and unexpected change. When the world is calm, when the environment is supportive, and when everything is going your way, it's easy to appear composed. But it's in the heat of conflict, in the face of criticism, during financial strain, heartbreak, or failure. This is where the true measure of a person is seen. Calmness is not passivity. It is not the absence of action or emotion. It is the disciplined choice to remain centered, to remain grounded when everything around you urges you to panic, lash out, or collapse. Most people equate strength with aggression, loudness, or dominance. They imagine strength as being forceful or overpowering, but that kind of strength is reactive. It is often unstable and easily shaken. True strength, the kind that is sustainable and unshakable, lies in the mind that knows how to remain calm. Because calmness is the seat of clarity. It is from a calm mind that you are able to see things for what they are, instead of what your fear, anger, or stress distorts them to be. Think about the most effective leaders, negotiators, athletes, or decision makers. What do they all have in common? When the pressure rises, they don't crumble. They don't allow their emotions to override their thinking. They stay calm, not because the situation is easy, but because they've trained their minds to function under pressure. Their calmness is a shield. It protects them from impulsive decisions and emotional mistakes. It gives them time to assess, to respond instead of react, and to operate from intention rather than instinct. Emotions are natural, but they are also contagious and unpredictable. When one person loses control in a situation, it often spreads like wildfire. Others follow, reacting rather than thinking. A calm person stands out in that moment. They become the grounding energy in the room. People naturally look to them. They provide stability, not just for themselves, but for others. That's why calmness is more than personal strength. It's influential power. It's a quiet force that commands respect without demanding it. To remain calm under pressure doesn't mean you are emotionless. It doesn't mean you don't feel fear, frustration, or confusion. It means you've developed the ability to observe those feelings without becoming them. You acknowledge the emotion, but you do not allow it to take the wheel. That self-retraiment is a reflection of deep inner work. It's the result of someone who has decided to stop being a victim of their environment and start being the master of their own responses. Calmness in the face of adversity sends a message not only to others, but to your own subconscious. It tells your mind, I am safe, I am in control, I can handle this. And the mind responds accordingly. Your thoughts slow down, your breath deepens, your perspective expands, and from that place of inner stillness, better choices emerge. You are able to listen more deeply, speak more wisely, and move with greater purpose. People often underestimate the power of the calm mind because it isn't flashy. It doesn't boast. It doesn't seek attention. But in the long run, it's the calm mind that wins. It's the calm mind that outlasts, outthinks, and outmaneuvers chaos. Because while others are distracted by urgency and noise, the calm person is quietly finding the solution. Calmness is not something you are born with. It's something you cultivate. It requires discipline, especially when your instincts scream for action. It requires awareness, especially when you're emotionally triggered. And it requires humility. The humility to know that you don't control everything around you, but you do control how you show up in the face of it. In any high-stakes situation, the person who remains calm has the advantage. Whether it's in business, in relationships, in conflict, or in the pursuit of personal goals, your ability to stay grounded will determine your effectiveness. When fear rises and your pulse quickens, when people are watching to see how you'll respond, when the pressure is mounting and your reputation is on the line, that's when calmness becomes your greatest asset. It's the anchor that keeps you from being swept away by the storm. It's the silent force that allows you to navigate uncertainty with grace. Calmness enables clear thinking and leadership. In the midst of stress, urgency, or conflict, many people allow their emotions to take over, making decisions rooted in panic, anger, or fear. But the mind that is calm has space to think. It has the ability to rise above the noise and see situations from a higher, more strategic perspective. It is not clouded by ego, defensiveness, or impulse. That clarity is what separates great leaders from the rest. It's what turns difficult moments into defining ones. When you train your mind to remain calm, you are training it to stay connected to logic, reason, and long-term vision, even when everything around you feels chaotic. Leadership is not just about giving orders or making big decisions. It is about how you carry yourself when others are looking for stability. In times of uncertainty, people don't follow the loudest voice. They follow the calmest presence. They follow the person who appears unshaken, not because they have all the answers, but because their energy says, "We can figure this out." Calmness becomes the foundation of trust. It reassures others that even in the face of difficulty, someone is thinking clearly, someone is steady, someone is not just reacting, they are responding. Decision-making, especially in high-pressure environments, requires the ability to see all angles. It requires awareness of both facts and feelings, risks and opportunities, but when the mind is filled with noise, internal or external, it becomes difficult to access your deeper intelligence. A reactive mind tends to narrow its focus. It operates in survival mode, often choosing short-term relief over long-term gain. A calm mind does the opposite. It widens the lens. It slows things down just enough to evaluate, to weigh, to consider. It gives you the ability to respond based on what matters, not just what feels urgent. In relationships, whether professional or personal, calmness allows for greater understanding. When conversations get tense, when emotions flare, it's easy to misinterpret, to get defensive, or to escalate the conflict. But calmness brings presence. It gives you the strength to listen fully without needing to interrupt. It allows you to hear not just the words being said, but the message behind them. This emotional intelligence, fueled by inner calm, makes you a better communicator, a better partner, a better leader. Because you are not driven by the need to prove a point, but by the desire to find the truth and move forward constructively. Even in solitude, when no one is watching, calmness is the key to self-leadership. It is in those quiet moments, when challenges feel personal and pressure builds silently, that your ability to think clearly determines your direction. Self-doubt, fear, and negative self-talk can hijack your mind if you haven't cultivated a sense of inner calm. But when you have, you are able to step back, observe your own patterns, and redirect your energy toward solutions rather than problems. That is leadership at its most fundamental level, the ability to lead yourself. People often think that urgency demands haste, that problems require immediate action, but urgency and clarity are not mutually exclusive. In fact, some of the best decisions are made not in haste, but in calm urgency, where there is awareness of the moment's importance, but no panic clouding the mind. Calmness helps you act without rushing. It helps you move decisively, not impulsively. And this is especially important in leadership, where every decision ripples outward and affects others. When a leader is calm, their energy influences the entire team or environment. It becomes easier for others to settle their nerves, to focus on the task, to align with the bigger picture. Calmness has a way of resetting the room, of bringing people back into balance. And in a world where chaos and speed are often glorified, that kind of leadership stands out as rare and powerful. It does not shout to be heard. It does not demand authority. It radiates authority simply by how it holds space, how it brings clarity, how it models grace under pressure. Being calm is not about denying emotion or pretending nothing affects you. It's about choosing to remain centered when emotion arises. It's about being grounded in your values, clear in your vision, and intentional in your actions. When the mind is calm, you become the eye of the storm. Things can move around you, but you remain steady. That steadiness allows you to think 2 steps ahead while others are stuck in reaction mode. It allows you to steer the ship rather than be tossed by the waves. It allows you to influence with presence rather than control with force. You must train your mind daily. The mind is like a muscle, and without consistent discipline, it becomes weak, scattered, and easily influenced by external conditions. Most people go through life reacting to whatever shows up, news, opinions, traffic, fear, uncertainty, without realizing that they are surrendering control of their inner world. Just as an athlete cannot perform at a high level without regular training, the mind cannot stay calm, focused, and sharp without daily conditioning. Mental strength is not something that just happens. It is the result of daily, deliberate effort to choose clarity over confusion, focus over distraction, and calm over chaos. Training the mind begins with awareness. You have to become conscious of what you are feeding your mind, what kind of thoughts you entertain, and how you speak to yourself. The most powerful influence on your mindset is not the world, it's your inner dialogue, the voice inside your head that tells you whether you are capable, whether you are safe, whether you are overwhelmed, or whether you are in control. If that voice is negative, chaotic, and reactive, it will shape how you see everything around you. That's why training your mind starts with training your self-talk. You must become the master of that voice. Speak to yourself the way a great coach would. Firm, focused, encouraging, and honest. Remind yourself of your ability to handle pressure. Reaffirm your values. Ground yourself in the present moment. A daily practice of mental training doesn't require hours of meditation or some elaborate routine. It requires consistency. A few minutes every day of stillness, reflection, or focused breathing can completely change the way your mind responds to stress. Just as your body remembers the repetition of physical movement, your nervous system remembers how often you've chosen calm over panic, control over reaction. With enough repetition, calmness becomes the default. It becomes who you are rather than something you try to find in the middle of a crisis. One of the most powerful tools in mental training is intention. Starting each day with a clear sense of purpose resets your mind toward what matters most. When you wake up and immediately reach for your phone, you're letting the world set your emotional tone. But when you start the day with a calm mind, through breath work, journaling, prayer, silence, or even a few moments of gratitude, you are telling your mind, I decide how this day will go. I choose focus. I choose clarity. That choice made daily becomes a habit. And habits shape character. Part of training your mind also involves learning how to observe your emotional triggers without becoming a slave to them. Everyone has triggers, moments that spark anxiety, anger, fear, or insecurity. The difference between someone who is mentally trained and someone who is not is how they respond to those triggers. The untrained mind reacts immediately, often making the situation worse. The trained mind pauses. It notices the emotion but doesn't let it dictate the next move. That pause, that space between stimulus and response, is where your power lies. It is in that space that the mind either becomes a weapon or a weakness. Discipline is another essential part of mental training. Discipline doesn't always feel good in the moment, but it builds something much more important than comfort. It builds trust in yourself. When you make a commitment to train your mind daily and you follow through, you start to believe in your own resilience. You build an identity around being someone who stays composed, who chooses growth over excuses, and who does the inner work regardless of circumstances. The process of training the mind is not always easy. There will be days when your thoughts are scattered, when fear feels louder than clarity, when your emotions get the best of you, but those are the moments when the training matters most. Growth doesn't happen when everything is going well. It happens when you meet resistance and choose to show up anyway. Every time you bring yourself back to center, every time you slow your breathing, reframe your thoughts, or sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, you are strengthening your mind. Mental training also includes managing what you expose yourself to, what you watch, read, listen to, and engage with. Just like your body responds to the food you eat, your mind responds to the information you consume. You cannot fill your day with negativity, comparison, and distractions and expect to have a calm, focused mindset. Protect your mental environment. Be intentional about the energy you surround yourself with. Choose inputs that align with your goals, your values, and your highest potential. When you train your mind daily, you stop being at the mercy of circumstance. You create a core within you that is stable, no matter how unstable the world becomes. You start to live from the inside out instead of the outside in. And that inner stability becomes your foundation for clear thought, meaningful action, and consistent growth. Control your inner world to master the outer world. The external world is full of unpredictability. Things change, people shift, plans fall apart, and circumstances often don't go as expected. While most people spend their energy trying to fix, fight, or rearrange the outside world, the truth is that lasting power comes from within. The person who understands how to manage their thoughts, emotions, and energy from the inside out holds a kind of influence and strength that can't be shaken by events. Your internal state dictates your experience of the external world. It shapes how you interpret situations, how you respond to challenges, and how you lead yourself and others through uncertainty. Everything begins with your thoughts. Your thoughts shape your perspective, and your perspective determines how you feel and act. When your thoughts are scattered, negative, or fear-based, the world appears hostile, rushed, and overwhelming. When your thoughts are calm, focused, and intentional, the same world feels manageable, open, and full of possibility. The outer world doesn't change, you do. The circumstances may be the same, but your internal narrative changes your entire experience of them. That's why controlling your inner world isn't just helpful, it's essential. Breath is one of the simplest and most powerful tools for gaining control over your inner state. It's available to you at all times, and yet it's often ignored. In stressful moments, your breath becomes shallow and fast, which sends signals to your body that you're under threat. But when you choose to slow your breath even for a few seconds, you interrupt that signal. You send a new message to your nervous system that you are safe, that you are present, that you are in control. Breath acts like a bridge between the mind and body. It is one of the fastest ways to bring yourself back to calm when the outside world begins to feel overwhelming. Equally important is how you manage your emotion. Emotions are powerful, and when left unchecked, they can hijack your logic, distort your perception, and lead you to actions you later regret. But emotions are not your enemy. They are messengers. They carry information, and when you listen to them with awareness instead of reacting impulsively, you gain insight. The key is to notice the emotion, name it, and then pause. That pause gives you the space to choose a response instead of being swept away by a reaction. This ability to self-regulate is what separates those who are controlled by their environment from those who lead themselves regardless of it. Focus is another part of mastering your inner world. What you give your attention to grows. If you constantly focus on problems, you'll see more problems. If you focus on solutions, opportunities begin to emerge. The mind has a bias toward what it believes is important, and it uses your attention as its guide. That means you must train yourself to focus on what matters most, even when distractions are everywhere. This requires discipline, because the world is designed to pull you in every direction, but when you take control of your focus, you begin to influence your reality. You start acting based on vision rather than noise. You stop being pulled by what's urgent and start moving toward what's important. Your beliefs are also a major part of your inner world. They shape how you interpret success, failure, adversity, and opportunity. If you believe you are a victim of circumstance, you will look for evidence to support that belief. If you believe you are resilient and capable, your mind will seek out ways to validate that instead. Changing your beliefs takes time, but it starts with questioning the ones that limit you. Ask yourself where they came from, whether they're really true, and whether they serve the person you're becoming. When you align your beliefs with strength, growth, and self-leadership, your inner world becomes a place of power rather than limitation. Another powerful way to control your inner world is through intentional language. The words you use, both out loud and in your head, are not neutral. They shape your experience. Saying, "I'm overwhelmed," repeatedly reinforces that state. Saying, "I'm learning to manage this pressure," opens space for progress. Language directs your focus, your emotions, and your behavior. Be mindful of what you say, because your mind is always listening. The more consistent you are in managing your inner world, the more influence you gain over your outer reality. Not because you can control everything that happens around you, but because you no longer need to. When your inner world is steady, the external world has less power over you. You don't need perfect conditions to feel grounded. You don't need everyone to agree with you to feel confident. You don't need certainty to move forward. You create your own foundation. You become your own anchor. And from that place, you operate with clarity, strength, and purpose, no matter what's happening around you. You are not a slave to circumstance. This is one of the most important realizations a person can have. The understanding that while you cannot always choose what happens to you, you can always choose how you respond. Most people go through life believing that their mood, mindset, and direction are dictated by the external world. If the weather is bad, they feel irritated. If someone is rude to them, they feel offended. If a situation doesn't go their way, they feel defeated. This way of living places all power outside of themselves. It is reactive, fragile, and deeply dependent on forces they cannot control. But there is another way to live, one grounded in responsibility, awareness, and choice. Your response is always your power. No matter how unpredictable life becomes, no matter how difficult the moment is, there exists a space between what happens and how you respond. In that space lies freedom. In that space lies self-mastery. The person who learns to pause in that space, who learns to choose their next thought, their next word, their next action, becomes powerful beyond measure. They are no longer at the mercy of their environment. They become an active creator in their own life, rather than a passive reactor. Circumstances will never be perfect. Life will test you with disappointment, delay, and discomfort. It will present you with people who don't understand you, situations that stretch you, and moments that challenge your patience, your values, and your strength. But how you interpret those moments determines what they become. Two people can go through the same situation and come out with completely different experiences. One sees failure, the other sees feedback. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. It is not the circumstance, it is the mindset. When you decide that you are not a slave to circumstance, you begin to reclaim your inner authority. You stop waiting for things to calm down before you feel calm. You stop waiting for people to change before you choose peace. You stop letting the outside world decide the quality of your inner world. This does not mean you become passive or indifferent to your environment. It means you understand the difference between what is within your control and what is not, and you choose to focus your energy on the former. This mindset shift is subtle but transformative. Instead of saying, I had a bad day, you begin to say, I had a few difficult moments and I'm learning how to handle them better. Instead of saying, they made me angry, you say, I felt anger and I'm exploring what triggered it. This kind of language reminds your subconscious that you are in charge. It reminds your mind that your emotional state is not dictated by others, it is managed by you. Over time, this shift builds resilience. You begin to see yourself not as a victim of life's circumstances, but as someone equipped to handle them. You stop fearing difficulty and start seeing it as a chance to grow. You stop wishing away pressure and begin using it to sharpen your thinking and strengthen your discipline. You no longer look for ease as a sign of progress. You look for strength in how you respond when things aren't easy. Believing that you are not a slave to circumstance also empowers you to take ownership of your life. You begin to look at your habits, your patterns, and your mindset with honesty. You no longer say, that's just how I am. When you know change is possible, you stop blaming others for your frustration and start asking better questions. What am I learning? How can I grow from this? What would the best version of me do in this moment? Those are the questions of someone who is no longer waiting for life to improve. They are improving themselves. When you carry this belief into your daily life, everything begins to change. Challenges lose their power to break you. Delays don't derail you. Criticism doesn't define you. You become internally guided instead of externally pulled. And that internal guidance creates consistency. You begin to lead yourself with integrity and clarity, regardless of the changing conditions around you. This does not mean you'll never feel emotional or affected by what happens. It means you don't stay stuck there. You feel it, you process it, and then you move forward with purpose. Because you are not here to be ruled by circumstance, you are here to rise above it, to learn through it, and to become stronger because of it. You are above it. And it is only until you return to peace and calm that you are. Each time you choose to respond with calm, each time you choose perspective over panic, you reinforce your freedom. You remind yourself that your power was never out there, it was within you all along. Master the mind, master your fate. This simple but profound idea lies at the heart of personal growth, success, and resilience. It encapsulates the truth that everything in your life, your experiences, your outcomes, your relationships, and your achievements are shaped by the way you think, feel, and respond to the world around you. The mind is not just a passive receiver of external events, it is an active participant in creating the reality you live in. If you can learn to control and direct your thoughts, if you can master your emotions and responses, then you are no longer at the mercy of chance or circumstance. You become the architect of your own destiny, shaping your fate with intention and clarity. The mind is incredibly powerful. It holds the key to everything you experience. The way you perceive challenges, the way you interpret success or failure, and even the way you approach everyday situations are all determined by your mental framework. Those who have mastered their minds understand this on a deep level. They don't simply react to life, they respond with purpose, with strategy, and with a mindset that is aligned with their values and goals. They know that their thoughts have the power to create their reality, so they intentionally choose thoughts that support their growth rather than hinder it. One of the most important aspects of mastering the mind is learning how to control your inner dialogue. The words you say to yourself, the beliefs, stories, and narratives you tell about your abilities and limitations become the foundation of your actions. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not good enough, that success is for other people, or that you are doomed to fail, your actions will reflect that belief. You will avoid challenges, procrastinate, and make excuses. On the other hand, if you choose to tell yourself empowering, affirming thoughts, believing that you are capable, that you can grow, and that failure is simply a part of the process, your actions will align with those beliefs. You will take bold steps, push through obstacles, and continuously improve. However, mastering the mind requires more than just positive thinking. It requires awareness and intentionality. You must be able to observe your thoughts without becoming entangled in them. Most people allow their thoughts to control them, but when you gain mastery over your mind, you take a step back and become the observer. You notice the negative thought patterns that arise, but you don't identify with them. Instead, you choose to shift your focus to thoughts that are more constructive and aligned with your goals. This awareness creates a sense of inner freedom because you no longer feel like a victim of your thoughts. You become the director of them. Another key element of mastering the mind is emotional regulation. Your emotions are deeply connected to your thoughts, and when you allow them to run unchecked, they can steer your actions in unhealthy or unproductive directions. Learning to manage your emotions doesn't mean suppressing them. It means understanding them and choosing to respond to them in ways that serve you. When you feel anxious, frustrated, or overwhelmed, instead of letting those emotions dictate your behavior, you recognize them, acknowledge them, and then consciously choose how to act. You learn to pause before reacting, giving yourself the space to make intentional decisions rather than impulsive ones. The ability to regulate your emotions also allows you to stay calm under pressure. When life throws unexpected challenges your way, whether it's a personal crisis, a setback in your career, or a difficult conversation with a loved one, the ability to stay grounded and composed is what makes the difference between success and failure. Those who master their minds are able to respond to high-pressure situations with clarity, resilience, and purpose. They are not swayed by panic, anger, or frustration. Instead, they focus on the task at hand, stay aligned with their goals, and make decisions that reflect their highest values. One of the most powerful ways to master the mind is through consistent mental training. Just as you would train your body to grow stronger and more resilient through exercise, you must train your mind through practices like meditation, mindfulness, journaling, and positive affirmation. These practices help you develop a deeper connection with your inner self and strengthen your mental resilience. Over time, you begin to notice a shift in the way you think, feel, and respond to the world around you. You become less reactive and more intentional. You start to see opportunities instead of obstacles, and you approach challenges with a sense of calm and confidence. Mastering the mind also means embracing responsibility for your own growth. You stop blaming others or external circumstances for your failures. You take ownership of your thoughts, emotions, and actions. When you make mistakes, you view them as opportunities to learn, not as proof of your inadequacy. You take feedback in stride, constantly looking for ways to improve and evolve. This mindset of growth and accountability is what propels you forward and enables you to shape your fate with intention. In the end, mastering the mind is the ultimate form of self-mastery. It allows you to control the one thing you can truly control, yourself. By mastering your thoughts, emotions, and responses, you take charge of your destiny. You no longer feel like you're at the mercy of external forces, but instead, you operate from a place of strength, purpose, and inner peace. You become the master of your fate because you have learned to master your mind.